So is the coronavirus going to change your plans? Have you thought about that yet? Here tonight, let's meet the party panel and decide. We've got attorney and Republican strategist Alexandra Wilkes. We've got liberal radio talk show host and a Fox News contributor, Leslie Marshall, and Dynamic Money CEO and radio host of The Chris Burns Show. It is the appropriately named Chris Burns. Welcome, everyone.
Thanks for having us.
Woo!
Excited to be here.
And solemn Ash Wednesday to you. And thank you very much for being here. So let's talk a little bit about this, because I know this could have a greater impact on the global economy because of fear in and of itself. And the president touched on this a little bit. You think about, curtailing some of your summer plans, but Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi are being a little bit irresponsible when they're talking about, really fanning the flames of coronavirus hysteria in order to tank the market, because they know if the economy suffers, so will the president.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think the president did exactly what he has to do tonight. He was the calm and collected commander-in-chief. We have the situation under control. I'm bringing in the vice president because I'm, lending the seriousness to the situation that it deserves. But at the same time, Americans shouldn't panic, but they should be flexible when it comes to making plans. I think that he, said what he needed to say. But I do think that if you're the Democrats right now, there is a little bit of a political calculation, as there is in everything these days, in saying to yourself, well, look, our debates were a disaster. Our candidates are no good. Let's sort of stoke the fears and sow some chaos into the news cycle. And I think that it's a news cycle that lends itself nicely to a media that counts on clicks and likes to fuel coverage.
And you really, when you're talking about hysteria, you really don't have to correct your own record, which is problematic. But do you think the president did a good job in terms of transparency? Because he did have Alex Azar there. He did have Dr. Fauci from NIH, as well as Vice President Pence. So you got sort of a multi-pronged response that was a little bit more comprehensive than what we've seen in the past. Did that make you feel better?
It made me feel better to hear from medical professionals.
Yes.
Not to hear from the president or the vice president, because politicians pretending to be doctors, and even the president, just one-offing it and just brushing it off. Look, funding was cut to the CDC just last year with this administration. That was a problem. Democrats, myself included, were angry about that, just in case something like this happens. One. Two, we're not prepared. My husband's a physician. We're not prepared for this. And one of the reasons we're not prepared for this, because the World Health Organization, and not just the United States, which has incredible, I agree with you, medical technology, so does the UK, so does Italy, so does Germany, as far as cutting edge. We work with them on an international global level with the World Health Organization to try and come up with the vaccine. One of the problems with this virus, which we had in the 50s, right? Coronavirus, we had it. Some of us have maybe even had it. It's a different strain. The problem with this strain is a lot of viruses, where do the fatalities occur? People whose immune systems are compromised. The old
that's
or the very
with
young.
Every virus.
But this virus, no. The people that are dying, if you look at people that have lost their lives, they're not extremely ill, they're not extremely old,
people who are
or extremely young. No.
Well, politicians are trying to spin this. This is not primarily a political issue. Like, we can't say Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi are the primary market drivers here, or Donald Trump. The market is down significantly.
Fear is the market driver.
Fear is the market driver.
But people changing their behavior or selling things, and when that's rooted in fear, that's when it's dangerous.
But the groups that start that sell-off are institutional, massive money managers, not individuals. And so these are politicians responding to the fear the market already has. It's not because the politicians started
What if they can't unring that bell?
Well, that's a good point. But the thing is, they're not going to be in control whether the market goes up or down.
Yeah.
I don't know about you guys, but when I watched the press conference tonight, what I saw was a mixed message. The politicians were saying everything's fine. Larry Kudlow comes out, a day or two ago, and says, we have this contained. And then they bring the medical professionals on, and suddenly it's, well, we should all remember the preparedness for if this does expand into the country. We should wash our hands. It felt a lot like a 1950s Cold War, get under the desk, we'll be okay scenario to me. And it didn't exactly reassure me that we actually have this under control.
Because they don't. We don't, and they don't really know.
I disagree, though, because that's what survivalism is. It doesn't mean that you assume when you go outside it's going to be the end of civilization. It just means you're smart and you're prepared for it. I don't have a problem with that, but I don't live my life wrapped in a prophylactic bubble hoping that someone doesn't sneeze on me.
I don't know why you don't. I mean, obviously you should. But the point is, with the
point.
markets, going back to the markets, I mean, yeah, the reality is people are freaking out about this
Yes.
on the individual level now. And the point is, no one knows. The director of the IMF came out and said, we just don't have enough information.
No one knows anything.
You know what
No one knows.
Even doctors.
I'm freaking out about everybody more concerned about the economy and the markets and all the people that are dying throughout the world and the people that could die here.
I'm freaking out
if we
because
can't get it
Chelsea's
under
yelling in
control.
my ear, and we gotta go. I'm gonna make Chelsea again. Entertaining, lively, vulnerable. But are any of these candidates looking presidential? The party panel has returned. Alexander Wilkes, Leslie Marshall, and Chris Burns. So I want to talk a little bit about Pete Buttigieg, because he says, I'm not, people say I'm not passionate, but, and this is where I disagree with him. He said, in order to be a great leader, you have to be a servant. And I think that shows a little kinkiness, which I kind of like.
I think that these answers just came off as so cardboard last night. And I was comparing it to being in the room for a lot of those debates on the Republican side in 2016, where, President Trump would deliver these lines, these big lines, and supporters and non-supporters in the audience alike, he'd get this big laugh out of them. And I think that, he brings to the debate stage the fun factor, right? Whereas some of these other candidates, they don't look like they're having a particularly good time. They're not.
Or that they're listening. I mean, and that's one of the issues that you have in debates like this. But they're all kind of playing the same game. I know the moderators at CBS took a lot of shrapnel on Twitter for losing control of the debate, but that's what they want, because the more chaotic the debate is, the more people watch. And that's what the candidates want, because they want to go after each other. They don't want these, these stupid restraints. They want to be able to answer each other and take apart ideas. Was it as bad as people are saying?
No, it wasn't. And when people say, the president said, well, it's a hot mess. And by the way, if I wanted a jokesters president, I would elect Bozo the Clown. But when we look at these people, and when you go back to the 2016 before the election, I was looking at that as a hot mess. You had people talking about hand size. You had name calling like we had never seen on a presidential, on a stage. These people are running for president. So honestly, I feel like anything goes now, because Trump has changed. The bar is changed. Gaffes, they're okay. Lies, they're okay. Personal attacks.
Socialism is fine. It's no longer radical.
Personal attacks, that's okay. By the way, socialism was fine in 2016 to millions of people that supported Bernie Sanders.
22 primary state voters.
And socialism is fine to a lot of Americans who like Medicare and like Social Security, and who support some kind of government health care, and who support a $15 minimum wage.
Yeah, but somehow Trump wins this debate and he's not even there. I mean, Elizabeth Warren says the biggest misconception is she doesn't eat very much. How about that?
Whose misconception
She's
is
a
that?
Native American. That would be a big misconception about Elizabeth Warren, right? Because it would show some personality.
No, it's not why be honest.
It would show some sort of honesty or personality, as opposed to just saying, well, people think I don't eat very much.
No one said that. That's the dumbest thing. I mean, and that goes back to, when you're interviewed, like, what's your greatest weakness? I care too much. I just love work. I love work so much. My entire life suffers. And it's like, I don't eat. No one ever said that. There's no website or meme or a hashtag like, you better throw a sandwich down, Liz.
No, she sounded like a defensive high school cheerleader.
Yeah. You guys, I totally eat so much.
So
That's a hoagie, by the way. Pervert.
No, it's just, how about being straightforward? Like
they're acting like Democrats. They're all talking to Joe.
If you think that the debates aren't about entertainment, and about this presidential election isn't about entertainment, that's not a factor when Americans, like average Americans, are going to be watching it, I think the Democrats are going to seriously estimate, what President Trump is going to be able to do.
Unleash the Russian bots. Long before he became our 45th president, Donald Trump was famous for tweeting things that were harder to believe than Bigfoot taking selfies with a leprechaun. So we decided to invent a brand new game we call Trump or False. I will read a statement. Our panelists will decide if it's something Donald Trump has really said or tweeted before or during his political career, or if the statement is false, like Nancy Pelosi's. The panel is ready to play. Alexander Wilkes, Leslie Marshall, and Chris Burns. And here we go. You guys ready?
Ready.
Who's going to win?
Me.
All right. Yeah, we got some game faces on. Look at that. All right, here's quote number 1. What happened with Trump University had nothing to do with me, but I will say that it's one of the finest schools in the country, like Harvard or Oxford, but better. Trump or false? Show me your paddles. Everyone says that is fake news. Everyone's on the board with one. Wonderful. All right, 1 point apiece. Here we go. Here's quote number 2. Trump or false? Did he really say, if Hillary Clinton can't satisfy her husband, what makes her think she can satisfy America? Trump or false? Did he really say it? And Leslie is now in the lead with 2. He said it April 16, 2015 on Twitter. While running for president, shared a fan's tweet that said this, but he then deleted it. That's fun. All right, you guys ready for quote number 3? That's right. You can have all the technology in the world. I'm a professional at technology. Trump or false? They're saying it's real. Well,
You can have all the technology in the world. I'm a professional at technology.
yeah, look at that. He really said it, obviously. He said it during a South Lawn departure and was talking about the border wall with his technological expertise. Leslie still in the lead. It is a nail biter. She's only got a 1-point advantage over Alex and Chris.
This feels like middle school all over again.
It does.
Like it's just slowly the lead lengthens.
Yeah. Well, we'll see.
Yeah.
Here is quote number 4. Don't dip her ponytails in the inkwells, please. Phony Indian Elizabeth Warren is on fake news NBC calling me a dictator. I'm not even 1/1024th of a dictator, but if I was, I'd still be more of a dictator than she is a Cherokee. Trump or false? Very good, Chris. That is fake, but it was a good one. So Chris, you and
Whoever
Leslie are
wrote
now tied. I know, that is very, they channel, they actually have a Ouija board, and they channel the
I thought
president.
they called him and was like, what would
Yeah.
you have said? Yeah.
Well, they're not Lou Dobbs. They don't have a direct line. All right, here is quote number 5. Shout out to you, Lou. You know it. Crying Chuck Schumer, a total buffoon, is now crawling on his hands and knees, begging for a deal on health care. Sorry, Chuck. I only negotiate with real men, not whining little babies. Trump or false? They're torn. Leslie has the last-minute switch, and it puts her back in the lead. That is false.
Wow.
Good one, Leslie. Trust those
Said
instincts.
something like that, but it wasn't that.
Yeah, that's the tricky part about this game. You really have to know the nuance of the president. You have to be obsessed with him. And Leslie clearly is. She knows every word and
Or
every
you
quote.
stick with your first answer, then you change it when you see everything.
That's what I do with Jeopardy.
Yeah, okay.
Here is quote number 6. Isn't it crazy? I'm worth billions of dollars, employ thousands of people, and get libeled by moron bloggers who can't afford a suit. Wild. Trump or false? And, look at that. Chris and Alex back on the board. Chris, you and Leslie tied. Alex, you have 3. They have 4 apiece. He said that on Twitter in 2014. His net worth still not publicly known, but various news organizations have attempted to estimate it, including Forbes says it's about $3.1 billion as of a couple weeks ago, right here in February. All right, here is the next quote. Trump or false? My fingers are long and beautiful, as it has well been documented are various other parts of my body. Trump or false? Alex and Chris say it's fake. Everyone goes fake, and everyone gets it wrong.
Wow.
I should have stuck with my first
He
one.
said it to the New York
started
Post
with
in
true. I
2011. That is true,
I
Trump.
knew the first part was true. but I
Vanity
wasn't
Fair
sure about
editor
the-
Graydon Carter, he was the editor-in-chief at the time, called him a short-fingered vulgarian in the pages of Spy magazine. They read and said, "Wrong, long, beautiful fingers and other parts."
I didn't remember the other parts. I did remember Long Beautiful. So I thought that
Yeah,
was. I thought that was a trick.
because you're obsessed with the president. All right, here's our next quote, Trump or false. Did you hear about Nancy Pelosi's little accident on Capitol Hill? Somebody get that old hag a diaper. Trump or false? It's just crazy enough to be Trump or false. They all say it's fake. They're all right. Scores stay the same, only separated by a point. Chris, you and Leslie tied with 4 apiece. Alex has 3. How are you doing at home there, sweet little honey bear? Okay, here we go. Next quote. I'm just thinking to myself right now, we should just cancel the election and just give it to Trump, right? Why are we even having it? Trump or false? Well, did he really say it?
And just thinking to myself right now, we should just cancel the election and just give it to Trump, right? What are we even having it for? What are we having it for?
Because when he's talking about himself in the third person,
Yeah,
you know
that's
it's
right. Well, Leslie and Chris still tied. Alex, you're 1 point away. So, and anything can happen here on Canadalia game night. Here's the next quote. My whole life, people have been asking me, Donald. They used to call me Donald. Now they call me Mr. President. I say, call me Donald. They say, no, you're Mr. President now. We can't call you Donald. But they say, Donald, why don't you have your own cartoon? Trump or false? And Leslie and Chris still tied. You're now 2 points ahead of Alex. And this is a 3-point question. It's our final question. Wow. So really anyone could win.
You had like
Alex,
3 cards. I was very excited.
Yeah, we don't have 3 times.
Did you make up that rule, or is that?
No, I can do whatever I want.
No, it's fine with it.
Okay, here we go.
Okay.
Next quote. Tell me which is cooler, my induction into the WWE Hall of Fame or my star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame? Trump or false? Chris Birch, you are the winner!
I hate you.
I know I'm sweating, but still.
Yes.
Hey, let me
well
say,
done.
it
He
was a
trounced the
good effort.
competition. He's a newbie,
And I changed it last
but
night.
he's
I gotta
not a
stop that.
booby. All right, great job, you guys. There's
Cat Temp, I'm coming after you.
Yeah, that's right. So
happen.
on notice.
Wow.
Thank you guys so much. Fantastic panel. Everyone's returning very soon.